The ancient ones never left. They only changed their form. They are among us. Every face has a story. Every soul a secret. Join stories. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment to spread the hype.
Why Medusa shaved her head. The untold story of modern betrayal. Is it really the serpents in her hair that turn a woman into a monster? Or is it the toxic, thick lenses of prejudice that society uses when looking at her? Today, I won't tell you a legend from dusty books. Today, I will tell you about one of those women you pass by every day, whose perfume you catch in the elevator, whose laughter you witness, whom you watch dancing recklessly, but whose deep cracks in her soul you refuse to see. Medusa. But this time, she is not on the peak of Olympus. She is in the very heart of the shining skyscrapers, the glass temples in that grey concrete jungle where everything is for sale. Medusa was the rarest flower of this jungle. When she walked through the corridors of an advertising agency, the rhythm of time would change, and you could feel the oxygen level rise. Her beauty was not just an aesthetic detail. It was a heavy, magnetic aura that altered the molecular structure of the room. When she walked, the sound of her heels on the marble floor resonated like piano keys. The light of her skin would turn the soulless, white fluorescent lamps of the office into the warmth of a sunset. People would forget what they were saying while talking to her. Watching her childlike excitement while discussing a trivial matter, they would struggle not to drown in the depths of those amber eyes. Medusa's hair flowed down from her shoulders, like night rivers with a will of their own, like a silken darkness. That hair was like a crown, haunting the dreams of those who dared not look at her, inspiring admiration in every strand. Yet this beauty was not a shield for Medusa. It was a target. Because the modern world, those glass towers, had an unwritten, bloody law. A woman could not be both this perfect and this intelligent. Society had turned her beauty into a weapon to ignore her intellect and diminish her success. Her brilliant ideas were seen as luck, and a hidden hand was sought behind every achievement. She was stripped of being human, reduced to a priceless but mute work of art displayed in a window, claimed by everyone. On the highest floor of this glass temple sat Athena, the founder of the agency, a queen of ice who cracked the marble with every step. Athena's power came from absolute coldness and suppressed emotions. She had donned her womanhood like armor to gain a place in this male-dominated world, but had crushed all the compassion within her under that armor. When Athena looked at Medusa, she didn't just see a talented employee. She saw her own lost passion, the natural light she had sacrificed for her ambition. The fact that Medusa remained so much of a woman and shone so brightly while being herself made the masculinization price Athena had paid for years feel meaningless. Thus, behind the famous mask of female solidarity, Athena nourished the most toxic serpents in her own mind. She formed an army of whispers in the office corridors by the coffee machines. Every laugh Medusa let out, every contract she won, was tainted by Athena's insidious whisper. Did you see? Look how she charmed the client. She didn't win that project with her brain, but with that enchanting smile. The oldest, most rusted weapon of society had been drawn. A successful woman must surely owe her success to the grace of a man. The tragedy began on that night when these whispers reached Poseidon's ears. Chapter 2. Poseidon. The Dark Waters of Power. Poseidon was the biggest investor in this glass city, the embodiment of money and boundless arrogance. To him, the world consisted only of continents to be conquered and properties to be bought. Medusa was not just a talented creative director to him. She was the only fortress that did not accept his no, the only light he couldn't touch, a light that blinded his eyes. Poseidon's harassment didn't start overnight. It seeped into Medusa's life like an insidious water leak. First came those uncomfortable stares in the office, those sticky sentences praising her skin instead of her ideas during meetings. Poseidon associated Medusa's success with her femininity at every opportunity, belittling her in the eyes of her colleagues. Untimely and boundary-crossing messages, veiled threats under the guise of "let's discuss strategy over dinner." Whenever Medusa tried to maintain a professional distance, Poseidon made her feel his invisible power. "I provide this budget, Medusa. It's best for the agency's future that you are compliant with me." And on that fateful night of the gala, this insidious leak turned into a giant wave. In that luxury penthouse where all the lights of the city were laid beneath their feet and champagne glasses accompanied lies, Poseidon pulled Medusa into the library. Behind those heavy oak doors holding thousands of years of knowledge, Medusa suffered not just the assault of a man, but the brutality of a system savagely. Poseidon's hands reached not only for Medusa's body, but for her dreams, her honor, and his absolute claim over her very existence. As Medusa resisted, Poseidon became even more violent. For in his world, resistance was merely an obstacle that enhanced the pleasure of conquest. In that moment, the silent books in the library witnessed Medusa's exile from the universe of her soul. Poseidon did not stop until he extinguished that untouchable, pure light of Medusa. When the assault ended, Poseidon straightened his jacket and, as if nothing had happened, refreshed his ocean-scented perfume and headed for the door. As he left, he whispered that icy sentence into Medusa's ear. "You can call this an assault, but tomorrow everyone will call it a choice. Whose word is more valuable, Medusa? My bank account or your tears?" While Medusa remained in that room, shattered among the books, the orchestra outside continued to play a cheerful waltz. Medusa's sobs mingled with the notes of the orchestra. In that moment, Medusa realized Poseidon had destroyed her, not just physically, but by stripping away her entire presence in the world. All the notes inside her were silenced forever, replaced by that deep stillness under suffocating water. Chapter 3. Why were you there? Shaking hands with the executioner. The next morning, with sleepless eyes and trembling hands, Medusa knocked on Athena's door, the door she had hesitated to knock on, her soul in pieces. She was begging for a fragment of humanity, a fragment of understanding. But Athena stood motionless behind her marble desk, like a statue. Every sob Medusa let out while telling her story turned into a risk assessment chart in Athena's mind. That terrible, ancient question blew through the room like a cold wind. Why were you there, Medusa? Athena's gaze was focused not on Medusa's bruised soul, but on the financial flow Poseidon would provide to the company. Why did you wear that dress? Why did you smile at him? Poseidon is just a man, it's his nature. But you were an invitation. Now don't blow this up and ruin the agency's reputation. Perhaps it's best for everyone if you take some rest, or even leave this place for good. Medusa realized then the temple that was supposed to protect her had already signed a pact with her executioner. Chapter 4. Depression, the Tower of Silence. When Medusa returned home devastated, she closed the door not only to the outside world, but to the sunlight as well. She didn't open the curtains for weeks. The daylight felt like it was burning her skin like acid. For every brightness reminded her of the glowing life she had lost and the betrayal she had suffered. Mirrors were her greatest enemy, for in them she no longer saw a success story, but a wreck, a defilement. She heard the rumors being told in the office, but she had never broken her noble stance, never put anyone in their place. She had continued to be as she was, confident in herself. She hadn't let anyone kill the child within her or the smile on her face. But this time was different. Now she loathed every single cell of her body. Her silken hair, which she used to comb for minutes, was now a tangled, neglected mess of knots. Looking at her own body felt like looking at the corpse of a stranger. The sense of time was lost. The ticking of the clock echoed through the empty house like hammer blows. Depression was like a pitch-black, sticky tar poured over her. The more she struggled, the deeper she sank into that soulless silence. Piles of dishes in the kitchen, heaps of unanswered messages, packages left at the door. They were all piling up like mountains, but Medusa didn't have the strength to lift a finger. People sometimes thought depression was about crying a lot, yet Medusa couldn't even cry anymore. All the tears inside her had dried up, replaced by an absolute emotionlessness, a terrifying numbness. It was as if her soul couldn't hurt any more than this. Her phone was no longer a tool for work, but an instrument of torture. Every glow of the screen meant a new stone thrown at her soul. Social media had turned into a digital guillotine fed by Athena's insidious whispers. Rumors in secret groups, those toxic comments left under her photos like, well, why would he do it if she wasn't wagging her tail? Labels like loose woman. What hurt her most was that even the women she knew were silently complicit in this lynching. Even her closest female friends, with whom she had shared everything for years, remained silent against this evil. They had plunged into silence. Every effort they made to not appear partisan actually showed starkly where they stood. Evil is in the souls of the wicked, to do harm, to oppress. On days like these, what matters is where the good or the seemingly good stand. The mastery is to stand tall beside the truth, no matter what. Medusa had no one beside her. No one. Even those she loved most had already branded her guilty generously. The fact that guilt is sought even in the most horrific thing that happens to a woman was a fake security shield society created for itself. It happened to her because she did something wrong. If I don't, it won't happen to me. Yet, evil shouldn't be evil only when it's done to us. This could happen to any of us. This cruel logic had buried Medusa in a grave while she was still alive. At night, she heard Poseidon's ocean-scented darkness in the corners of the room, and during the day, Athena's voice in that marble coldness. Every breath was a burden, every second a torture. The invisible whip of society cracked on her back at every moment. You are guilty because you are beautiful. You are guilty because you couldn't stay silent. You are guilty because you reflected the ugliness of this world like a naked mirror back to their faces. When Medusa curled up in her bed like a fetus, She only wished to vanish, trapped within her own mind, drowning in her own silence. Chapter 5. Transformation and Revenge. The Petrified Masks. But when pain hits rock bottom, it splits into two paths. You either drown in that tar and vanish, or you make an armor out of that tar and return. The transformation began when the last spark of life in Medusa turned her despair into an icy rage. One night she faced the mirror under that dim bathroom light. She shaved off those night rivers, the hair everyone once wanted to touch, in one go with the electric razor. With every strand of hair that fell to the floor, she stripped off the husk of victimhood from her soul. She no longer had her beauty, nor the compliant victim image society expected of her. Medusa now moved silently. She seeped into Poseidon's and Athena's lives like a poison. She didn't hurt them physically. She did the most terrifying thing to them. She left them alone with their own truths. At every elegant gala of Poseidon's, at every successful presentation of Athena's, Medusa appeared at the door. She did nothing. She just stood there and looked, with her shaved head and her dull eyes. Every time Poseidon looked into those eyes, he saw his own brutality. Every time Athena looked, she saw her own betrayal. Slowly they petrified like living statues within their own fears and guilt. Mythology tells us that Medusa was killed, but this time the story ended differently. Medusa is still among us. She is no longer a victim. She is the mirror of society. You called her a monster because you saw your own ugliness in her eyes. Now tell me, is it she who turned to stone, or your cowardly lives that you see when you look in the mirror?
The ancient ones never left. They only changed their form. They are among us. Every face has a story, every soul a secret. Join stories. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment to spread the hype.